It was one of those hot Missouri afternoons when the sun hangs like a furnace above the treeline, and the air feels thick enough to choke on. Out on a nearly forgotten stretch of County Road 36, surrounded by farmland and silence, stood a gas station that looked like it hadn't changed since the early 90s. The kind of place with fading signs, slanted soda machines, and dust hanging in the air like a permanent fixture. That's where Jacqueline Carter pulled in. She wasn't dressed to impress, just dark jeans, a gray windbreaker, aviators hiding her eyes. Her black SUV eased into the gravel lot without fuss. To anyone watching, she looked like a tired woman in her early 50s stopping for fuel on a long drive. Maybe on her way home. Maybe nowhere in particular. But Jacqueline Carter was far from ordinary. She was the FBI's regional director for the Central States. The woman behind several high-profile takedowns, from cartel pipelines in Chicago to corrupt state officials in Kentucky. In D.C., her name sparked either admiration or fear depending on who you were talking to. But none of that mattered out here. Not today. Not to the man about to make the worst mistake of his career. She had just started the pump when she heard the crunch of tires on gravel. A Benton County Sheriff's cruiser crept into the lot. The hum of cicadas paused. Jacqueline didn't look up. She'd heard that sound too many times not to know what it meant. The car door creaked open. Heavy boots hit the ground. Then came the voice. "You lost, ma'am." Slow, hard, and without a trace of welcome. She turned slowly, hands visible, posture calm. "Just stopping for gas," she said, her voice even but firm. The deputy was tall, broad, buzz-cut, with mirrored shades and a badge pinned crooked on his chest. Deputy Wade Holcomb. A man who looked like he'd failed a psych evaluation and never got over it. He stared at her like she didn't belong. "Let me see your ID," he said. Jacqueline didn't react. "Can I ask what the problem is, deputy?" "You don't look like you're from around here," he said, stepping closer. "Folks in black SUVs don't usually stop here unless they're looking for trouble." She reached slowly into her pocket and handed him her driver's license. "Not her badge." "Not yet." He snatched it like it insulted him. "Jacqueline Carter, huh?" he read, drawing out her name like it left a bad taste. "What exactly are you doing in Benton?" She looked him straight in the eye. "Like I said, getting gas. Anything else?" And that was it. The line. He stepped into her space, chest puffed, jaw set. "You got an attitude, Miss Carter. I don't like that." And with no warning, he shoved her. Hard. She stumbled into the SUV, caught herself with one hand against the doorframe. "That's not necessary," she snapped, still trying to de-escalate. But he was already rifling through her open glove box. Receipts. Sunglasses. Protein bar. He tossed them like trash. "My registration is in there," she said carefully. He found it, crumpled it in his fist. Then it happened. Before she could react, he raised his boot and kicked her hard in the shin. The crack echoed through the lot. She collapsed with a grunt, gravel ripping through her jeans. The nozzle slipped from the pump, fuel splattering onto the concrete. "That's where you belong," Holcomb muttered. "Stay down." And then he turned and walked off like nothing had happened. But Jacqueline Carter didn't stay down. She forced herself upright. Blood soaked through her jeans, but her face was stone. A few feet away, a teenager stocking crates had his phone out, camera pointed her way. He'd caught everything: Holcomb's smirk, the shove, the kick. The deputy didn't see it, or didn't care. He got in his cruiser and tore out of the lot, spraying gravel behind him. Jacqueline retrieved her ID from the dirt. Her phone buzzed in her jacket. A secure call from D.C. "This is Carter." "Jackie, you all right?" came the voice of Deputy Director Langston. "We just got a geofence alert. Something's triggered from your badge." "I was assaulted," she said. "By a sheriff's deputy. Civilian has footage. I want Holcomb's full file. Complaints, partners, internal affairs logs. Now." There was silence on the line. Then, "On it." She hung up, looked at the teenager. "Send that footage to the news," she said quietly. He nodded, wide-eyed. She climbed into her SUV, limped into the seat, and stared at her scraped hands on the wheel. 3 minutes. That's all it had taken. 3 minutes from the first shove to the moment a machine far bigger than Holcomb had begun to turn. She didn't drive off immediately. She waited, thought. Then she opened the side pouch of her bag and pulled out her badge. FBI Regional Director. It gleamed in the sunlight like it knew what was coming. She didn't show it before because she needed to see just how far he'd go. And now she knew. Her next call was to Marcus Red, Deputy Director of Intelligence Coordination. "You okay?" he asked, tense. "No. And neither is Holcomb." She sent him the video. The audio. Her voice never shook. Within hours, the footage was online. Viral. The boot. Her fall. His smirk. The words, "That's where you belong." The internet exploded. She was trending before she made it out of the county. By nightfall, Holcomb's name was being dragged across every platform. Memes. Hashtags. Op-eds. Politicians called for his badge. Activists demanded answers. And Jacqueline Carter? She wasn't waiting for apologies. Back in a small motel, she iced her leg, opened a case file, and typed 6 words. Subject: Deputy Wade Holcomb civil rights violation. The next morning, Marcus called with Holcomb's full file. 6 years on the job, he said. For complaints all excessive force. 3 against black men. 1 Latina nurse. All dismissed. No follow-up. Jacqueline nodded, her jaw tight. And the sheriff? Cynthia Greaves. 3-term incumbent. Backed by real estate donors. Tied to every suppression Holcomb's ever faced. Never filed a disciplinary action that stuck. They were protecting him. They always had. She opened another document. Labeled it Pattern of Misconduct. And then she began to dig. Complaint by complaint. Incident by incident. Her laptop glowed into the night as she mapped every thread. Witnesses. Judges. Internal affairs agents. Names started to repeat. A system. Not a fluke. She slept for 30 minutes. Maybe. Then got up and called Denise Vega, a federal prosecutor she trusted with her life. "I've got something," she said. "Tell me where." The next day, Jacqueline walked into the Benton County Courthouse. No press team. No protection detail. Just her badge visible, her leg wrapped beneath black slacks. Cameras swarmed. Protesters lined the steps. Reporters called her name. She stood behind the podium, face calm. "My name is Jacqueline Carter," she began. "I am the FBI Regional Director for the Central States. I have served this country for 26 years. And yesterday, in broad daylight, I was assaulted by a law enforcement officer who saw my skin before he saw my humanity." She let the words hang. "I didn't tell him who I was. I needed to see how far he'd go. And he'd gone all the way. I am not here today to condemn one man. I am here to expose the machine that trained, protected, and empowered him." She announced the federal investigation. Named Sheriff Greaves. Named the corruption. Named the pattern. "It's not a bad apple," she said. "It's a poisoned orchard." The crowd erupted. By nightfall, Greaves issued a vague statement. No apology. Just PR nonsense. And then Jacqueline's SUV exploded. Molotov. Put fire. A message. A note was found nearby. "Stay in your lane." She didn't flinch. Instead, she launched the second wave. Body cam footage was leaked by a whistleblower inside the sheriff's department. It confirmed everything. Worse, it showed Holcomb laughing afterward. Using slurs. More protests followed. She was suspended by the FBI pending review, citing protocol concerns. She smiled. They thought silence would stop her? She leaked everything. To the press. To advocacy groups. To Congress. Documents. Emails. Contracts. She exposed campaign donors. Surveillance contracts. Real estate deals. Sheriff Greaves was suspended. Holcomb was arrested. But the rot went higher. A name kept appearing: State Senator Louis Granger. Former cop. Oversight Committee. Funding chair for law enforcement. He had approved Greaves' contracts. Lobbied for Holcomb. She called Denise. "We found the architect." Together, they filed an affidavit. A federal audit began. And a reporter in St. Louis published the whole web. Within 48 hours, Granger's office was shut down. His aides flipped. A secret recording surfaced, Granger talking about taking care of the Carter problem. The final blow came from inside his own house. Footage from a warehouse: Granger, Greaves, and Holcomb. Planning. Talking optics. Media suppression. Strategies for silence. Jacqueline watched the clip and said 3 words. Leak. It. All. That night, the country saw the truth. Not just a deputy with a boot. A system trying to crush the one woman who refused to kneel. Greaves was arrested before sunrise. Holcomb cuffed in his driveway. Granger? Caught fleeing toward Montana, drinking in a lodge under an alias. By noon, Jacqueline walked out of the courthouse. Her badge restored. Her name cleared. She didn't wave. She didn't speak. She just raised one hand. The crowd erupted anyway. Because by now, the whole world knew. You don't kick someone like Jacqueline Carter and walk away. You start a reckoning. And she wasn't finished.